yesterday. Barry in his first year driving for Wood Brothers Racing, and they are celebrating their 75th season in NASCAR. The NCAA men's basketball tournament bracket, it has been announced. The tournament's going to get underway coming up tomorrow with the first four. The first two games tomorrow, St. Francis of Pennsylvania against Alabama State, and then North Carolina will take on San Diego State. The second two games of the first four on Wednesday, Mount St. Mary's against American, and Xavier will take on Texas. The one seeds, Auburn in the South, Florida in the West, Duke in the East, and Houston in the Midwest. With Progressive, you can bundle auto and home insurance, renter's insurance, or condo insurance, and you're going to save with Progressive. I'm Matt Pauley with the SportsGrid Sports Flash powered by The Score.
Lowe's knows what makes SpringFest savings even better are member-only doorbuster deals. Right now, rewards members can save $40 on an Allen & Roth Chesler Gold faucet. Was $99, now $59. Plus, save $110 on a Cobalt 40-volt battery trimmer and blower combo kit. Was $279, now $169. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 3/24 while supplies last. Program subject to terms and conditions. Details at lowes.com/terms. Subject to change.
One of life's greatest mysteries has finally been solved.
Who let the dogs out? Spruce.
It's Spruce, the new hard-working, worry-free weed and grass killer that's safe for use around people and pets. When used as directed, spray the leaves for visible results in just 1 hour and dead weeds in just 1 day. You spray, they play. Weeds die by the next day. Find Spruce wherever weed killers are sold.
You've heard of smart bombs, smartphones, smart cars, smart watches, and smart glasses. Now you can add smart player, giving you sports gaming strategies and information 24/7. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
The only place in football where the offense is always on the field is on Moneyline, with the two best hosts in radio, Donnie Rightside.
If anybody wasn't watching, listen, I don't know what you were doing.
And Kevin Walsh.
Forget act like you've been there before.
On the SportsGrid Radio Network, SiriusXM Channel 159.
Oh, what do you say? Little Moneyline right here on SportsGrid Radio, SiriusXM Channel 159. Kevin Walsh here on this Monday, the Monday after we have received the NCAA tournaments bracket. Madness set to begin really tomorrow, Thursday, whenever you want to say. People say it already started, and they would be right. We had some fun games in the conference tournaments, even if they did not matter at all to the committee. And there was a lot of conversations about the ins and outs of this tournament. I think for me, the big takeaway is none of this seems to make much sense. The consistency is not there, but even the formats or the formulas don't seem to add up perfectly. North Carolina causing a big stir due to their 1-12 record in quad one games. North Carolina is the 36th team in the net. Based on that, North Carolina shouldn't have even been on the bubble. People cannot believe they are in the tournament. The number is the number. I'm not here to tell you that that's perfect. I don't know. What I know is Nets dictating quad one, quad two, all that, right? North Carolina, despite the 1-12 record in quad one, the net didn't believe was a bubble team. BPI, I believe, was even higher on North Carolina. Not a bubble team. Gonzaga is 8th in the net, and they are an 8th seed. Well, that sounds like we've made a mistake. You know, I sent the tweet out. It's completely broken. I didn't say it was either the metrics or the seeding. I left that alone. Everybody felt I was referring to the seeding in their replies. I would lean towards the seeding being the issue. because what we do is we bet. We bet these games. We see these spreads. And the spread that is out there now for Gonzaga's 8-9 matchup, it tells us, okay, yes, a mistake was made here. They're laying 6.5 points, Gonzaga, to 9-seeded Georgia. Okay, we made a mistake here. We've obviously messed something up now when we look at this game. Because if you compare it to the other 8-9 games, Mississippi State is a 1.5 point favorite in their matchup. UConn is a 4.5 point favorite. But of course, there is, I think, a little bit of a boost for the Huskies' pedigree that is creeping into that line a little bit. Not saying it's unearned, but even that, I mean, every number makes a difference. Louisville, a 2.5 point favorite to Creighton. Gonzaga is a 6.5 point favorite in an 8-9. And it's not some slight to Georgia as if they were overseeded. And people think that my complaining, again, is this is so unfair to Gonzaga. No, I actually don't care about Gonzaga. The reality is if Gonzaga ends up an 8th seed, all of the justifications will be how it's Gonzaga's fault. They didn't win games. They didn't close it out against Kentucky or UCLA or Opportunity 1 or Opportunity 2 against St. Mary's. I don't feel bad for Gonzaga. I feel bad for Georgia. I feel bad for Houston, the number 1 seed in the Midwest region, one of the undeniable 4 best teams in college basketball, who for some reason now, in the 8-9 game, is going to play a team that if we just seeded this thing through net, would be a 2 seed. A 2 seed. If Creighton knocks off Louisville, Auburn will play a team whose net is lower than North Carolina. The biggest disgrace, everything is rigged, this is outrageous team that's in your tournament. Last team in, Creighton's net is lower than that of North Carolina, as is Oklahoma's, who's going up against UConn. And it's not as if UConn's out there with a net in the teens. It's outside of the top 30, as anyone is who's playing in the 8-9 game, except for Gonzaga. And you're now going to see all those 1 seeds will advance. Florida, Auburn, Duke, Houston. And you'll see Duke laying double digits, undoubtedly, against Mississippi State or Baylor. No doubt about it. You will see Auburn laying probably double digits, whether it be Louisville or Creighton. Florida, I mean, at this rate, this team might like 20 with the way they are changing, with the way that they are changing perception. Some very interesting local news we will get to. Wow! We'll get into this next. Huge news out of the MAC. Hold on. Florida, though, can run up against UConn, and that will still be a double-digit spread. Houston, assuming Gonzaga gets through Georgia, will be about a 5-point favorite. Half of all of the other 1 seeds. That's who I feel bad for. That's who's getting jobbed. That's where the mistakes are being made by the committee. Punishing your 1 seeds. You can't do that. That's where you're misfiring. And that's where they misfired undeniably yesterday far more than letting in a North Carolina team who the predictive metrics, the odds makers, all think actually would belong in this field. That's not the disgrace to me. I feel bad for West Virginia, more so than Indiana, because West Virginia didn't turn that Selection Sunday show on and think, I hope we're in. They were in. No one thought they would be out. Over 100 brackets on Bracket Matrix we reference often on this show. All of them had West Virginia in. Every bracketologist. West Virginia's not even on the 11 line. Not last four in. 10 seed. That was tough to watch. Even if their net, by the way, though, is 51st. Also, I don't know how Memphis ended up a 5 seed. That was very surprising. I got to tell you, folks, a lot of radio shows out there. None more equipped to handle the huge news that was just broken by ESPN's Pete Thamel. Iona has fired Tobin Anderson after just 2 seasons. What this says about one of the contenders to cut down the Nets, I'll explain that after a quick break here on Moneyline.
We give you expert analysis and information 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Any easier and the government would ban us. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
With the SportsGrid News Flash, I'm Trey Westerberg. President Trump has signed into law legislation funding the government through the end of September, ending the threat of a partial government shutdown. The bill largely keeps government funding at levels set during Joe Biden's presidency, though with changes, it trims non-defense spending by about $13 billion from the previous year and increases defense spending by about $6 billion. The Senate cleared the legislation on Friday in a 54-46 party line vote, with 10 members of the Senate Democratic caucus helping the bill advance to passage, despite opposition from within their party. A delivery driver has won $50 million in a lawsuit after being seriously burned when a Starbucks drink spilled in his lap at a California drive-thru. A Los Angeles County jury ruled in favor of Michael Garcia, who underwent skin grafts and other procedures on his genitals after a venti-sized tea drink spilled just after he collected it on February 8, 2020. He has suffered permanent and life-changing disfigurement, according to his attorneys. I'm Trey Westerberg with the SportsGrid News Flash.
With Fidelity Wealth Management, a dedicated advisor gets to know you and your goals to build a comprehensive plan to help grow and protect your wealth. Backed by a team of specialists, they'll analyze all your accounts, even the ones they don't manage, to keep an eye on taxes and provide proactive portfolio insights that can help you unlock your wealth's full potential. Learn more at fidelity.com/wealth. Investment minimums apply. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC. Member NYSE SIPC.
Progressive knows owning a home can be hard, but not always. Like when you're relaxing on your patio, enjoying a nice, quiet evening. So quiet. Except for the sound of the neighbor's party. Which you said you'd go to if you weren't busy. And your quiet night on the patio, that's not exactly busy, is it? Maybe you should just stay inside. At least Progressive's Home Quote Explorer lets you easily compare rates, so shopping for insurance is the easiest part of owning a home. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and third-party insurers. Comparison rates not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
You don't have to listen to SportsGrid. You can always go out in the woods at night, look up, and wish on a shooting star. Or you can get the winning edge right here. And you won't find any ticks on you the next day. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Back with you right here on this Monday, live on Moneyline. Kevin Walsh. We have the next hour on Sirius XM, channel 159. Huge breaking news coming out of Iona. Yes, my alma mater, the Iona Gales, have fired Tobin Anderson after 2 seasons. Iona has even released a statement. It reads from the director of athletics, Matthew Glavaski. We appreciate Tobin and everything he has done for our program. He has been a valuable member of our Iona community. With the impact of NIL changing college basketball in ways no one could have imagined, Iona feels the need to shift the direction of our men's basketball program. This requires an overhaul of our entire business model and program structure. Iona, they're citing NIL as a reason for this decision. And Pete Thamel has come out, and actually, we already have a expectation as to who will be replacing Tobin Anderson. New Orleans Pelican assistant Dan Gerard worked for the Cavs. This is all from Pete Thamel of ESPN as an assistant prior to New Orleans, and is a former G League head coach as well. The decision here for Iona, as they seemingly have already had the move in place for Dan Gerard, likely means they were not pleased with Tobin Anderson. They were kicking the tires around, realized that someone at the NBA level was going to be available to them, and they made the decision that if their season ended in disappointment, then ultimately, right, they were going to make that move. And here's what people need to understand. Here's what people need to understand. Iona's season did end in disappointment because the standard at Iona is not one that was set by Rick Pitino, despite every stupid, lazy graphic you keep seeing on Twitter and on these different shows. Rick's a Hall of Famer. We've known it for a long time. Rick didn't show up to Iona to save the program. It's because he ended up ousted at Louisville for real reasons and needed to go to a mid-major to soften the blow before he could get back to a high-level program. So Iona took him in. And he, again, didn't show up to some low-level program. He showed up to the kings of the MAC. Every year, Tim Kluse makes the tournament. Year in and year out. Iona had won the MAC tournament 4 straight years. Then COVID. Then Rick Pitino took over. Oh, and by the way, Rick one year didn't make the tournament. So as everybody can't believe what is going on, and St. John's is great, and they're a great story, and that's great. Iona is once again showing the people who may not know what they should know. The standard at Iona didn't start. People, you're going to see fools who know nothing go, what they think Tobin Anderson was going to be able to keep up with what we saw from Rick Pitino. That's not the bar. Rick didn't show up and win a tournament game. That's what would have been another step up. He didn't do that. And the reality is the brand of basketball Iona was getting from Tobin Anderson, flatly unacceptable. 317th in offensive efficiency. 317th in offensive efficiency. Are you nuts? 2012, 15th in the country. That's Timmy Kluse. 2013, 18th in the country. That's Timmy Kluse. 2014, the 12th best offense in America belonged in New Rochelle to the Iona Gales and were 300 spots lower. That's why Tobin Anderson got fired. That's a program that's got some guts. That's what I like to see. That gets me fired up. That's what it should be. Oh, we made a run to the MAC championship. That's where we belong. This is Iona. Anything less is sad. And they showed up to that game as 5.5-point favorites to Mount St. Mary's and could not score the basketball the entire second half. 49 points with a trip to the dance on the line. Woo! Unacceptable. Hit. Oh, don't let it hit you on the way out. You got somewhere to be, and it's not here. You got somewhere to be, and it's not Iona. I like that. I like it a lot. reminds people just how this works. Exactly who Iona is. A team that if they're not playing in the big dance is disappointed. Tobin Anderson's year number 1, they gave him some grace. Said, all right, we'll let you figure this thing out. Year number 2, not good enough. Not good enough. And Iona goes and grabs a guy from the NBA because they can. Because that's what Iona basketball is. Walter Clayton, first team All-American, cut his teeth at Iona. You see it on a regular basis. Kid's got something. Got it from New Rochelle. It's true. And everybody act like Rick Pitino saved Iona. Why'd Walter Clayton Jr. decide to play basketball in the swamp instead of Queens? It's about Iona. It's about Iona. Well, that's about enough of that. I don't know. Honestly, I might just play that on loop for the next 40 minutes. No, I won't do that. We'll talk some bracket next right here. It is Moneyline on SportsGrid Radio.
Loser is kind of a mean-spirited slur.
But it doesn't have to stick.
Tell them to listen to SportsGrid and fix it.
No, thank you. Later.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
The SportsGrid Radio Network presents This Date in Sports History.
1955, riots ensued in Montreal after NHL President Clarence Campbell suspends Canadian superstar Maurice Richard for fighting. The Rocket was banned for the remainder of the season and the playoffs. Red Story officiated the game at the Forum the night of the riots.
You knew something was going to happen, but you didn't know what. Campbell should not have been at the game. If he had not been at the game, we would have had no riot.
For SportsGrid Radio, I'm Mike DeMurgis.
The Technology Minute with George Capalbo.
The University of Copenhagen's new AI machine learning model can understand the emotional state of animals just by listening to them. With 89.4% accuracy, it acoustically distinguishes positive and negative emotions from 7 different species, including cows,
it's a beautiful game,
pigs,
stop stealing my slop,
and even wild boars.
Have you ever had one of those days?
This breakthrough universal animal emotion translator, a game changer for barnyard quality of life.
You're standing on my foot.
Follow me at G Capalbo on X and stay tuned to the Technology Minute for more cool stuff like this.
Football Full Circle.
Once Dan Quinn left, that defense fell apart. The Dallas Cowboys are making championship moves? Absolutely not. They're relying on young talent with the likes of Micah Parsons when they drafted him. They need more than just that to get over the hump and challenge Philadelphia. I just don't think that defense is that good.
It's Football Full Circle with Ben Stevens and Joe Lisi. Weekdays noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific on the SportsGrid Radio Network. Winning is no accident.
You've got to be smart about it.
It takes a plan.
All centered around expert analysis and trusted information.
That's what you get.
Right here.
The winning edge. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Man, oh man, I'm going to have to make some phone calls. I'm seeing some conversations out here around Iona basketball from a lot of people who sound like they're a little upset. Sound like they're a little upset that Iona is not going to settle for second place. Programs in for a rude awakening, I'm seeing. Man, we sure we can't get a caller in here? I might have to send out a bat signal, man, because I don't like what I'm seeing right now. I don't like what I'm seeing, but I'm not gonna drown everyone in Iona basketball right now. I'll take a little bit of a break. We'll pull back. You know, we haven't necessarily talked about the bracket as a whole in terms of picks and, you know, perception and what this is all going to be. And, you know, I think one of the the really fascinating things about this year's tournament is if you look at the top, you have 4 teams, the 4 number 1 seeds, a clear cut above the rest of the country. Again, I bring up KenPom often. It is widely used and available, and it is understood. And we've seen in the recent days how within the last 10 or 15 years, I believe, teams with a net rating of 35 or better, there's only been about 4 of them. And I think it's 2 national champions, a runner-up, and a Final Four appearance. Side note, the team from that group that was only a Final Four appearance had the highest net of that group. That, of course, would be the platoon squad Kentucky team. And John Calipari was given a lot of grace by Kentucky. This year you have 4. That's Duke, it's Florida, it's Houston, it's Auburn. And I think what's fascinating is when you go and fill out the brackets, we know that tournaments are full of upsets. But how many people do you think in your bracket pool will fill out a bracket that has Auburn win the South, Florida win the West, Duke win the East, and Houston win the Midwest? That is a 13-1 proposition. That parlay, you can put that together. Plus 1347 on FanDuel. And I am fascinated. Again, because it's the tournament, so you never operate like this. But could you end up with a situation where the gutsy move is to actually advance the 4 teams that have been the 4 best teams in the country? Auburn, the path. Who, as an Auburn backer, are you most fearful of? They did lose to Texas A&M, so that potential rematch looms. On the bottom, Michigan State, there's certainly some trends that suggest they're up against it as a team who was not ranked preseason, going on deep runs then typically does not materialize. Iowa State lost one of their starters for the remainder of the season in Keyshawn Gilbert. So we know that is going to put them up against it. Ole Miss has a 6. We've seen them hang with Auburn. We've not seen them able to take Auburn out. The pathway is certainly there for Auburn. You go to Duke. Baylor and Miss State, I don't feel have the same. Of the 8-9s, that feels the least threatening. Oregon or Arizona, I don't know how many people are running to grab those teams outright. At the bottom, Bama, we know that's legit. That's no doubt. You going against Duke, though? If Bama's there? We'll talk more about this, these top seeds in March after a break on Moneyline. Kevin Walsh, Sirius XM, channel 159.
It's easy to get SportsGrid almost anywhere with our mobile app.
So give us a break.
We're not going to tap your screen for you. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the SportsGrid Sports Flash powered by The Score. The NCAA men's basketball tournament field is set as the big stories are the SEC. They get 14 teams into the tournament. The 1 seeds are Auburn in the South, Florida in the West, Duke in the East, and Houston in the Midwest. The 2 seeds are Michigan State in the South, St. John's in the West, Alabama in the East, and then Tennessee in the Midwest. The tournament gets underway with the first 4, 2 games coming up tomorrow. St. Francis of Pennsylvania against Alabama State and North Carolina against San Diego State. Then on Wednesday, Mount St. Mary's against American and Xavier against Texas. With Progressive, you can bundle auto and home insurance, renter's insurance, or condo insurance, and you're going to save with Progressive. I'm Matt Pauley with the SportsGrid Sports Flash powered by The Score.
Welcome to Staples.
I hear Staples prints it all for any business.
You bet, and we'll beat any print quote.
So if I had a pizza place...
Staples can print signs, menus, pizza boxes.
A landscaping business?
Oh, we can print yard signs, t-shirts, brochures.
How about a pizza/landscaping business? I'll call it Dough and Mo.
I like it.
Right now at Staples, get up to $250 off your print purchase. Ends 4/5 exclusions apply. Visit staples.com/print for offer details. Price match guarantee valid in store and staples.com/print. Visit staples.com/price match for details.
Thanks for calling Discover. This is Nia.
Hi, Nia. It's Jennifer. Did you know that Discover automatically doubles all the cash back you've earned at the end of your first year?
Yeah, I work here.
Okay. I was just double checking. Get it?
Because Discover automatically doubles all the cash back you've earned at the end of your first year?
Oh, you get me, Nia.
You could say that I double get you.
I guess we've taken it too far.
You earn, we match. Discover Cashback Match. See terms at discover.com/creditcard.
How to tell if you have the winning edge. Take a sheet of paper.
Crumple into a ball.
Throw it at a trash can. Even if you miss, so long as you're listening to us.
You have it. Get the winning edge.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Live right here on SportsGrid Radio, Sirius XM, channel 159. Kevin Walsh with you on this Monday for the next half hour. It'll be football full circle. I'm sure that group will get a lot into the Cincinnati Bengals decision to pay T. Higgins, to pay Jamar Chase. And now seemingly they're also going to attempt to pay Trey Hendrickson. And again, the Cincinnati Bengals have kind of found themselves in this situation where no matter what they do, the perception around it will be negative. And I think that that is correct. I think that is 100% how it should be perceived. Jamar Chase, great football player. T. Higgins, great football player. Trey Hendrickson, great football player. But everybody knows that the timing from the Cincinnati Bengals is poor. Everyone knows that. And it cost them millions of dollars on Jamar Chase, millions of dollars on T. Higgins. And if they get the Trey Hendrickson deal done, that'll have cost them millions of dollars as well. Waiting to pay any of those guys could only be justified if you are wanting to see some return on the field, not from their individual statistics, which, of course, all of which were fantastic, right? We know what those players brought to the table. Trey Hendrickson, a league best 17 and a half sacks. Jamar Chase wins a triple crown. And T. Higgins, while playing alongside a triple crown winner and missing 5 games, had 10 touchdowns, over 70 receptions, and just short of 1,000 yards. All of those guys are great. But they were 9-8. So what went wrong if you're Cincinnati? We talked a lot about the defensive side of the football. It wasn't just that. There were some slow starts in there. You think about what they did against New England. Obviously, that was a big problem. There were some games, you think about the game against the LA Chargers, where they trailed 24-6 at halftime. Now, ultimately, they did come back in that game to tie it. but it expends a lot of energy. And yes, they did give up 34 points when, it was all said and done. There were close losses in there. Kansas City by 1, Baltimore by 3, Baltimore by 1. You flip those around, you're 12-5 and viewed as a very, very real Super Bowl threat. You probably win your division if you take both of those games off Baltimore. I think that was a run of 3 games for Cincinnati where being 3-0 was far more likely than being 0-3. Yet they were 0-3, as opposed to 1-2 or 2-1, which would have made the difference and at least been able to get them a slot in the postseason. So maybe Cincinnati feels we played close games. The coin didn't flip our way. You play a lot of close basketball games, right? People think eventually that shoe drops. You'll see a lot of people picking against Michigan under those guidelines, along with some other stuff. Same thing is true in football. And for Cincinnati, the idea is that this will circle back, right? The Kansas City Chiefs, of course, right? Every game's a close game. Every game's a close game dumped on their heads by the Philadelphia Eagles in the Super Bowl. Thank you. Cincinnati did move on, though, from Lou Anarumo, their defensive coordinator, who people had been singing the praise of for years. So was Lou at fault? Was he unable to adjust due to the personnel departures? Not many people seemingly felt like, okay, that was an absolute fair assessment. He is the one who should pay the price. But Cincinnati, again, looks like they are going to, well, not looks like, they are going to run it back. The issue for this team, they also missed the playoffs last year. People go, oh, well, Joe Burrow was injured. I go, well, Joe Burrow was injured in week 11 against Baltimore, a game they entered, okay? A game that Cincinnati entered 5-4. At the time Burrow left the field, he threw a touchdown pass, and he did throw that pass, right? They were winning. It was early in the game. It was it was the middle of the second quarter. Maybe with Burrow, they make the playoffs. Maybe. It's not a guarantee, obviously. Now, the 2 seasons prior to that were incredibly successful. Made a Super Bowl run, made a conference championship run. The team looked a lot different back then, though. And for Cincinnati, it now feels as if the team is going to look very similar. Not a lot of room for improvement on some areas because you've had to pay a lot of money to retain Chase, Trey. You don't expect a level of cap savviness for Cincinnati that signing these guys will open up the checkbooks for this year to then attack in other areas. We're not seeing that from Cincinnati this offseason. We're not seeing big, offensive linemen end up Cincinnati Bengals. We've seen them bring in Oren Burks, who was the third-string linebacker, had to step in for Nakobe Dean on the Philadelphia Eagles, played really well, could be very good for this team, but we've not seen huge moves at the cornerback position, safety position, defensive line. We're not seeing that. So it looks like what Cincinnati's really done is allow these deals to multiply, to grow in value, and then reach a point where it's like, okay, the only way to really make everyone happy is to bring these guys back. And it's interesting, but to some degree, it's as if ownership now, the winning's not on them. It's on the players. Zach Taylor, I guess. But this is what Joe Burrow was campaigning for. This is clearly what T. Higgins wanted. Chase just wanted to be the highest paid guy, and he is. Trey Hendrickson, I guess, wants to be there as well. If the belief is there from the fans and from these players that if you keep us together, the winning is going to come, the delay that we saw from ownership in paying T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, Trey Hendrickson, I don't want to say is justified, but it becomes secondary. Because the onus is now on Joe Burrow and this team to win at a real level. They will enter, I think, barring any big surprises, with the fourth best odds to win the AFC. That is not insignificant. Their Super Bowl price right now is seventh best, tied with Washington. They are not a tier 1 team, but clearly right at the top of tier number 2. It looks like tier number 1, you talk Super Bowls, Philly, Baltimore, Kansas City, Buffalo, and Detroit. And then Cincinnati is right around that corner, and the onus is now on their guys, because now they have their money. We'll circle back to March Madness and the bracket after a quick break on Moneyline, Sirius XM Channel 159.
You're listening to one of the last places on earth where a man can be a man and not get those looks.
Welcome aboard, good sir.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the SportsGrid Sports Flash powered by The Score. The NCAA tournament field has been announced. Auburn, Florida, Duke, and Houston are the 1 seeds. The tournament will begin with the first 4 tomorrow night. 2 games being played in Dayton, St. Francis of Pennsylvania against Alabama State, and North Carolina against San Diego State. NBA basketball, taking a look at the schedule for tonight. Busy night across the league. Heat are in New York to play the Knicks. The Rockets will host the Sixers. Pacers at the Timberwolves. The Pelicans hosting the Pistons. Bulls at the Jazz. Nuggets at the Warriors. Suns at home against the Raptors. Grizzlies and Kings will play in Sacramento. The Trailblazers host the Wizards. And the Lakers at home against the Spurs. With Progressive, you can bundle auto and home insurance, renter's insurance, or condo insurance, and you're going to save with Progressive. I'm Matt Pauley with the SportsGrid Sports Flash powered by The Score.
Have you heard? Everyone's favorite beverage is now at Burger King. Coke Zero Sugar. Real Coca-Cola taste with zero sugar. Here to quench your thirst at breakfast, lunch, or dinner, Coke Zero is the perfect pairing for flame-grilled favorites any time of day. Feeling something flame-grilled? Nothing goes better with Coke Zero Sugar than the new Steakhouse Bacon Whopper, featuring Swiss cheese, iconic A1 sauce, crispy onions, and peppercorn aioli, available now for a limited time. Or start your morning right by fueling up with a piping hot breakfast sandwich, like a sausage, egg, and cheese croissant. Its sizzling sausage, fluffy egg, and melted American cheese on a toasted croissant makes it a delicious breakfast. It pairs perfectly with a Coke Zero Sugar, and don't forget the crispy hash browns. The ultimate sparkling beverage that will have you feeling like royalty. Have it your way, because Coke Zero makes every meal better with the real Coke taste you love, but with zero sugar. Available at participating U.S. Burger King restaurants. This report is sponsored by Burger King.
When it comes to odds on daily sporting events, it's complicated when you factor in everything from current wind speed
to how hot a player's girlfriend is.
But you don't have to mess with that.
Just keep it here
and listen.
This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
All right, so we're back with you here on SportsGrid. We're talking a little bit about the number 1 seeds, and is the risky move, is the gutsy move to actually take all of the number 1s to make it. So, I'm sure a lot of you have already filled your bracket out. I'm not there yet. I'm going to take my time with this. That's how I am. I mean, the work has started. Okay. Work has begun, but, and I've gone through the South. And for Auburn, the path is there. I know UC San Diego is, this trend is the trendy 5-12, but it's for a good reason. I like them in that spot more than I would have expected the more I got into it. And I think what's interesting is, I'll tell people now, I like Texas A&M against Yale. I'm talking laying 7.5. I think UC San Diego could even clip A&M. I do. I don't think they could beat Auburn, UC San Diego. A&M can. And those are the swing things in brackets, right? And those are the spots where you might want to be cautious. Right, listen, man, I'm telling you Texas A&M can beat Auburn. But I'm not sure they can even get past UC San Diego as a 12, much less the 5. Michigan, if Michigan gets there, you may then be better off just advancing Auburn. So you don't need Auburn to win the whole thing. Now, if you like Texas A&M to win the whole thing, then none of it matters. Because obviously you like them to beat UC San Diego. But when you get to those trip spots, you have to really consider it. Duke's path in the East, a lot of people have felt, okay, that's a really secure window, right? The reality on Houston in the Midwest is Gonzaga, I think actually has, and I'll pull this up, quickly. They have the third best odds. Again, this is why the seeding is bad. To win the Midwest, despite knowing they would have to play Houston in the round of 32. Because Gonzaga will be booked as the best team probably. So I know Tennessee's ahead of them in KenPom and things of that nature. If Gonzaga beats Houston and then were to play Tennessee in the Elite Eight, I think Gonzaga would end up favorites in the game. It'd be close. I think Gonzaga would. Now, I don't think that's going to happen. I think I am still all in on Houston. I'm all in on that program. That isn't going to change what they're bringing to the table this year. Their draw is not the easiest of the bunch, though. And I think that's going to lead to a lot of people looking to potentially pick on them. Purdue going up against High Point, Clemson going up against McNeese. You will see those 13 and 12 seeds picked quite a bit. The bottom of this bracket is fascinating. Illinois looks to be the 6th seed people want to pick on with the winner of Texas, Xavier. Tennessee's a team people don't mind picking on. Kentucky, we'll see. That's where there's a level of nerves, I think, that go into that game, because if you told people before the season that Mark Pope won a tournament game, people would have been very, very pleased. Mark Pope, though, ends up a 3 seed. The expectations change. I don't think it's a situation where he has to make the Sweet 16. Anything else is a failure. I don't think it's a rousing success if he were to be eliminated in the round of 32. But it is now unquestionably a failure if Kentucky loses to Troy. That's the reality of it. That's the reality of it. We're talking 1 seeds, though. Is Houston the one that you want to pick on? What about Florida? How popular will UConn be in that game? Here's the issue. For those who were ready and willing to pick UConn, Florida somewhat is giving UConn vibes. Number keeps moving. They just keep winning. They just keep rolling. People are loving the Gators in the market. Florida's climbed all the way up to the 2nd best odds to win the national championship. Sitting right now at plus 390, under 4-1. Legitimate dip. Legitimate dip on the Gators, despite their 8-9 game being the back-to-back champs. Maybe it's because Memphis is the 5, not as scary as, say, a Clemson, right? Is Maryland at the 4 scary enough for people? Tough to say. I think the bottom of the bracket presents real challenges. If St. John's is there, although they have those Michigan State precedents of being a non-preseason ranked 2 seed, we've seen those teams not go far. But if the Johnnies are there, I mean, listen, all they do is win, right? If Kansas is there, you're talking Bill Self and the preseason #1 team. If Texas Tech is there, we know how good that team is. Are they healthy at that point? For me, so Florida might have what looks like the least dangerous top end. If they are in the Elite Eight, their opponent feels as if they will be incredibly dangerous. Where maybe in other brackets, that's not the case. Like, as somebody who is a Kentucky basketball fan, they can't beat Houston. And that's the 3 seed, right? Within this region. Illinois, that's not happening. Stop it, please. Right? From the bottom portion of it all. I don't think Sparty has enough to get through Auburn. I don't know if Marquette has enough to get through New Mexico. Bama Duke would be an awesome game. But Wisconsin, BYU, feels less threatening. And it makes for a great bracket. It makes for a great tournament, and that's exactly what this is going to be. We're going to get more into this, of course, tonight on Game Time Decisions. Go through some of the early lines. I'll continue to be breaking this down throughout the day. Let's take a quick look over at your NBA slate here on this Monday. Kevin Walsh, it is Moneyline on Sirius XM, channel 159.
This is the place. This is where you'll get expert perspectives and sports gaming strategies 24/7. And it's free. Beat that, you cheap. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network. The new SportsGrid app is now available on iOS and the App Store. Experience the ultimate sports betting companion that provides personalized content from your favorite hosts. In-depth matchup previews, game and prop picks, live odds, stats, scores, and more. All in one place. And of course, on the SportsGrid app, you can tune into our live television and radio coverage anytime. On the go, wherever you are. Download the SportsGrid app on the iOS App Store now. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Imagine combining the exciting investment opportunity of cryptocurrencies with the power of artificial intelligence to maximize your IRA, 401k, or other investment funds. Listen, if you're looking for ways to accelerate your retirement growth, Block Trust IRA has market-leading strategies and solutions for all levels of investors, from $1,000 to millions. And they partner with Bitcoin Magazine's #1 crypto trading fund in the world to maximize your returns. Plus, their team of IRA specialists is here to help you roll over your IRA or qualified retirement account to the new world of cryptocurrency investments. So make this free call right now to set up your account and learn more.
800-434-5313. 800-434-5313. 800-434-5313. That's 800-434-5313.
Sports Rage tonight.
I saw the kids on Pit crying. I'm like, what are you kids crying about? Like, you're lucky you're even in the ACC tournament, let alone like the real tournament. Like, you weren't going anywhere. You had a bad year. You know what I mean? Like, I can understand, like, oh my God, I was going to be the #1 pick in the draft. I got eliminated. Like, no, you got like 12 and 17 teams. What are you kids crying about?
It's Sports Rage tonight with Gabe Morency. Weekdays, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 Pacific on the SportsGrid Radio Network. Think of us as your cool roommate that has this innate gift of somehow always picking winners and never bugs you about doing the dishes or paying rent. Sports gaming strategies and information 24/7. Get the winning edge. This is the SportsGrid Radio Network.
Great to have you here on this Monday. DRS will be back tomorrow. I'll be with Donnie as well. So DRS called in the studio for the early line today. So honestly, and I love working with Donnie, great day for him to not be here, because we were able to do a whole segment on Iona, as we should, though. As we should. Marist fans telling me the glory days are done for a team that was just in the MAC tournament. I truly I don't know. I don't want to be rude because it's a friend, but it's insane behavior and conversations. So I want to talk about tonight's NBA slate. There's a really important game that may end up not mattering. Late night, Golden State is a 4.5-point favorite against the Denver Nuggets. And we have a couple of game time decisions for Denver. Christian Braun is probable. Aaron Gordon, Jamal Murray, and Nikola Jokic are all questionable. On top of that, Steph Curry is questionable. Denver, possibly, feeling as if their standings dance is largely with the Lakers, may think to themselves, let's take a beat on this Golden State game. We're going to be up against it. They're red hot. And let's get extra rest as they'll play the Lakers on the road Wednesday. Denver, of course, lost to the Luka LeBron Lakers a couple of weeks ago. This weekend, they were nearly beaten by Austin Reeves and Dalton Connect and Christian Coloco. So clearly there's, some oomph to that game. But if Denver does punt this game, that would be a real shame. Because I really am waiting for Golden State to play some upper echelon teams that are healthy. I am not trying to undercut all of the winning that has happened since Jimmy Butler has arrived. The winning is substantial. But the caliber of opponent is not there. Their toughest games at Milwaukee, Giannis didn't play. At the Knicks, Karl Anthony Towns didn't play. Home against the Knicks, Jalen Brunson didn't play. Your fourth toughest game would have to be, I would think, home against Detroit as a 5.5-point favorite, won the game by 5, needed a fourth quarter comeback. They won. They did. I'm not acting like they didn't. Don't tell me the Houston game, who sat some key players in that one. It started Aaron Holiday in that basketball game. And if you want, you can, I guess. That was a while ago. This game against Denver was supposed to be an awesome step-up level test. Booked as favorites. Now it may not be. And there's not that many of these on the Golden State schedule. There's a back-to-back with Milwaukee. They have to go to Memphis, at the Lakers, home against Denver again. There's not a lot of them. There is just not a lot. I'll say the other game tonight, then, from a standings perspective, you have to acknowledge is the Lakers game against the Spurs. Lakers still without LeBron. The expectation is at least another week. We heard from Shams Charania. So that means you're not going to see LeBron until the next road trip at Orlando, at Indiana. I think anything sooner, the earliest you would think would be the home game against Chicago. That's the earliest. So if you're the Lakers, that means your next 3 games are home against the Spurs, home against Denver, second leg of a back-to-back, home against Milwaukee. You cannot lose this game to the San Antonio Spurs. Booked as an 8.5-point favorite, you cannot lose this game. Should be a fun NBA slate. We'll break that down on Game Time Decisions, 6 p.m. Eastern start, so make sure you're live there on SportsGrid. On SportsGrid Radio, it is Football Full Circle. Next, Kevin Walsh. Keep it right here on Sirius XM, Channel 159. I'll see you tomorrow with Donnie.
It's easy to get SportsGrid almost anywhere with our mobile app.
So give us a break.
We're not going to tap your screen.